everybody. Is the Safety and a Sportswriter show back after a little bit of a hiatus last week. We missed out on last week, but the Super Bowl is over, and now we get ready for next year. We got a lot of stuff to go over tonight, starting with the free agents and a few other things. Nate, how are you doing?
I'm good. The missed show last week, obviously there was a couple situations, but the one good situation was it was my grandfather's 95th birthday.
Wow.
And the old man is still doing great. He still remembers stories from 1930, from 1980. Sometimes you'll hear the same story more than once.
That's okay.
Over. Yeah, but then you remember it. You know, you hear the story a couple times, and you remember the details better. So it was awesome to catch up with him. I'm sorry we missed getting to talk to everybody else, but I'm glad that I got to catch up with him and celebrate his 95th birthday. That was pretty cool.
Well, that's the biggest thing. You know, the family's the biggest thing. So there's nothing wrong with a little family over football anytime. Let's just do a little recap of the Super Bowl since we really didn't get to talk about it. Then we'll get into the free agents. A good game, a really good game. A fumble and a controversial call at the end. But I think the call at the end, although I'd love to see referees swallow their whistle at that time of the game, it was a penalty. But, I mean, it's just one of those things that I still think it was, at that point, Kansas City was going to go in. I mean, we've seen it so many times with Patrick Mahomes. The clock's the only thing that stops him.
True, and I'm not saying that the Eagles would have won, but I did not like that call, man. I mean, they did. How many times did they call that all day? That happened about 9 times, and they didn't call it. And then they make the decision. I just don't like it when the refs decide the game, especially the biggest football game of the year that 65 billion people are watching, and the guy with the striped shirt instead of the jersey decides who wins it. Because once he made that call, the game was over. The Chiefs, didn't even have to score a touchdown. They laid at the 1 instead of going in because they knew they could run the clock out because the Eagles only had 1 timeout left. So once he made that call, and I don't care what anybody says, once he made that call, the game was over. Because the Eagles weren't going to have enough time to come down and score.
I totally agree with you there. I mean, but the 2 things that come to mind for me is, first of all, the one thing that you look at it, the ball, whether it was held up a little bit, the ball was going to be a borderline catch. I mean, it was well past him.
Yeah, he was never going to get him that ball. He didn't have time to throw it to him.
Right.
That's why he just threw it up, and he got the call. There was no way he was going to make, even if that he doesn't grab him, which he did. I'm not saying he didn't grab him. No. He did grab him, but let's say he doesn't grab him. They're not making that catch.
Right.
So that's why I didn't like the call in the first place. And then the second place, like I said, it decided the game. And I never liked the refs to decide. It was a great game up to that point. I mean, I had so much fun watching it. I didn't really care who won. I like Jalen Hurts. I'm a fan of his, so I wanted to see him win. And I'm already getting sick of hearing about how great Pat Mahomes is. He is good, but I'm sick of hearing about it every day. So I wanted Jalen to win, but I really didn't care. And I was like, the back and forth's great. I don't even care who wins at this point. And then they make that call, and then I'm pissed.
Well, the 2 things I got to come back to that. First of all, there was an interesting thing the next day on ESPN. Rob Ninkovich, who used to play for the Patriots, brought out. He goes, the thing that came to mind when I was looking at it, he goes, in big games especially, Belichick would never let us wear black gloves if we were playing against white shirts.
Yeah.
He goes, those are little details that you got to look into in that kind of a game.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
And then the other thing, Pat Mahomes, he's great. There's nothing about Pat Mahomes, but you know what it reminds me of now? He's getting into the Steph Curry too cute for the room feel. People are going to start going after him now just because he's had so much success and everything's going his way. We got to try and tear him down a little bit. And it's kind of like the Steph Curry syndrome.
Hey, it's not even that for me. It's just, know where you're at. I mean, you take Patrick Mahomes and you let him, let's say the Chiefs don't move up and select him. Let's say he goes to Cleveland or he goes
Carolina.
Carolina, Jacksonville. We don't even know who that guy is. I mean, let's be honest, man. I mean, he is who he's good. He's got great talent. He's got a lot of football skill. He had that going in. His dad was a professional athlete. He's got a lot of drive. He's got the intangibles, but it all comes down to where you go.
Right.
And if he doesn't go to Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill's gone, but they still got about 5 good wide receivers on that team to make things go. Plus, one of the best offensive lines I've seen all year long. So things look a lot better when you're on Andy Reid's team. And let's be honest with this too. Steve Spagnuolo is a hell of a defensive coordinator.
He is, and he doesn't get enough credit.
You know him from New York.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy can come up with a game plan and a scheme.
Especially for the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm saying.
He does his best work in the Super Bowl.
Big games. If there's a big game, man, he will come up with a damn plan. And, I know he got a chance to be a head coach one time, not a real long chance. I don't know whether he could be a head coach or not. I really don't. But he is a heck of a defensive coordinator, and he's really good at what he does. And you pair that with Andy Reid's offense, man, it's beautiful.
Exactly. And Andy doesn't have to worry about the defensive side of the ball. It's taken care of. And that's what he likes. That's what he had with Jimmy Johnson back in Philadelphia. He was able to concentrate on the offense, and then Jimmy Johnson took care of the defense. So, yeah, it was a great game. It was fun to see that any of the doubters of Jalen Hurts have to be shut their mouths, because the guy is definitely right up there with one of the good young quarterbacks, or not great young quarterbacks we have now going around. The one thing that you brought up about it, and you're right about Pat Mahomes. When you think about it, right now there's only 2 guys there that can maybe say, well, we didn't have a team ready for us when we got here, but we made it the best of it. And that's Burrow and Trevor Lawrence right now.
Yep.
Because they both walked into crappy situations.
Oh, definitely.
And so you got to give them a little bit of a leg up there. Before we go, a little bit of a transition. We've been waiting for, I think Eric Bieniemy, it's a smart idea. He's got to get out from underneath Andy Reid's shadow. It's a perception that's going to follow him. And I think it's good that he goes and tries to prove himself. He's going to somebody he knows, a good coach, a solid guy who will give him a chance to succeed. And I just think it was a good move for him to go to Washington. And, people can sit there and say, well, why go to Washington? Well, you don't know. Maybe, if he can turn that team around and make them a playoff team or a competitive offensive team, that might open up a few eyes for the guy.
Yeah, no, I don't love his choice, but maybe that was his only choice. I mean, I have no idea why he chose to go there, but I do understand why he chose to leave. I think it's a good idea for him. Everybody's going to keep using that Andy Reid calls the plays things. Maybe Andy Reid does call the plays. I know he does, but Eric Bieniemy, that doesn't mean he's not a good coach. So I do think it was a good move for him to go somewhere else and, take over the offense for himself.
Well, not just Andy Reid's calling the plays, but the fact of the matter is that Pat Mahomes goes off script so often and makes the sensational play. So it's kind of hard to be the offensive coordinator saying, "Oh, you drew that up. He threw it with his left hand."
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, Andy Reid.
No, I know.
It don't matter who's playing on the field. I mean, look where Andy Reid's been. Green Bay, Brett Favre. I mean, he makes these guys great. I mean, Donovan McNabb was great because of Andy Reid. I think Patrick Mahomes is great because of Andy Reid. These guys. Pat Mahomes, a lot of people didn't even know who he was until draft night. Brett Favre, the Falcons traded him away, didn't even want him. And look what he did with him. And he took the Chiefs to the playoffs with Alex Smith to boot. So this guy is one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, in my opinion. And, who's to say he's not the greatest? I don't know. He's got a case for it. And if he keeps winning Super Bowls, he'll be right up there with them all.
Yeah, can you imagine if he had Pat Mahomes his whole career with him? God, Brady and Belichick's records might have been chasing theirs. So you never know with that.
No doubt. I mean, he almost won a Super Bowl with Donovan, and I like Donovan McNabb. I think he's a great guy and a good football player, but he definitely benefited from being on Andy Reid's team.
Oh yeah, and that was I felt sorry for Donovan because his time in Philadelphia was so overshadowed by To and his antics that it kind of I don't know I didn't take away anything from Donovan, but it was like he had to deal with that every day. What about To? What about To? What about To? It's like can you just get to them? Let's just talk about the game. Let's not talk about the jerk. It's like
Yeah, no, thank God. I mean, Terrell only played there what, 1 year?
yeah,
So, I mean, that's the thing that I will always remember about Donovan McNabb is I kind of liken it to the Lamar Jackson situation in that, I mean, name me a wide receiver besides T.O. that Donovan had. I mean, I can name them because I worked for Fox Sports Net in Philadelphia at the time, but let me go ahead and name them for you because you probably can't. James Thrash, Todd Pinkston, Freddie Mitchell. I mean, these are the dudes that I'm talking about that he had to throw the football to. I mean, his best wide receivers were Brian Mitchell and Bryant Westbrook, the running backs and
right.
some of the tight ends, because his wide receivers almost the entire time he was there were garbage. And the 1 year they got him a decent receiver and Terrell Owens, they went to the Super Bowl. They just kind of picked the wrong superstar wide receiver because T.O., is T.O.
Yeah. So let's get into free agency since that is what is going to be the big picture right now as they get ready for the draft. And some interesting names out there. And the most interesting, if we start out with the quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson right now, and it's getting close to where it doesn't look like it's going to happen for him in Baltimore right now.
I don't understand why Lamar wanted to represent himself. I don't get it. I don't think it makes any sense. I mean, if you're a middle linebacker and you play special teams and you make like $3 or $4 million a year, I get it. Represent yourself. The deal is pretty much already cut for you in a framework, and there's not a whole lot of wiggle room. But when you're a quarterback and you're one of the top quarterbacks and you're 45-16 as a starter, you need to have a fucking agent, okay? Because these guys know how to do these contracts. They know how to negotiate with the teams. They know what your value is. They know what to ask for. They know what to concede. They know what to demand. I think he's doing himself a big disservice by representing himself.
But do you also think the timing of it? Sometimes it's all about timing. I mean, the quarterback prices are going outrageous right now. Deshaun Watson, and all these other guys getting these huge contracts before they even do anything, before they even win anything. They're getting these huge contracts. I mean, I heard people talking right now about Daniel Jones wanting or expecting somewhere near $40 million. He's not a $40 million quarterback.
Well,
And
they threw that number out, but I don't think he's really expecting that. He may ask for that, but I don't think he's expecting it. And I do agree with you, though. I think that the Deshaun Watson deal hurt everybody involved, and I think that could be part of the problem because I think Lamar wants a fully guaranteed contract because he knows he's better than Deshaun Watson.
right.
But I do think that the fact that he's represented himself has let this go on. I mean, if he had an agent, they probably would have got this deal done 1.5 years ago, if not sooner than that, because they would have seen, they would have wanted the money for themselves. The agent would have, and he would have understood that Lamar, is a freakish athlete, and part of what makes Lamar is his speed, his quickness, his agility, the way he can run and throw it, the way he can do all these things that other guys can't. And you have Lamar starting to break down. I mean, he's not even gotten hurt outside the pocket. He's gotten hurt the last 2 years while he's been back throwing. He's gotten hurt in the pocket. It's not even his running ability that's hampered him. It's getting hurt because football, you get hurt. So he should have gotten the contract done before, so he had guaranteed money, and so it wouldn't be as big a deal him getting injured.
Yeah, it's funny when they talk about that. I mean, I think I go back to I remember Randall Cunningham the first time he got hurt. Everybody was like, "Oh, he can't, got to stop running." His knee injury came when he was standing in the pocket.
Bingo.
It's like it is like that's these quarterbacks get hurt more by a lineman rolling up on them in the pocket, taking out their Achilles, taking out their knee, taking out their ankle as they're looking downfield than they do when they're running. I mean, yeah,
Exactly.
every once in a while you see a guy land on his shoulder hard or get knocked on his head, but not so much anymore. I mean, and when they're out there, I think they understand and they know how to get down and slide, or they know when to go for more. Whereas, like you said, if they're coming from your blind side, you never feel them coming, or if they're coming up the middle and they roll up on your knee like they done Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
That
No,
you know,
like you said, it's he's gotten hurt both times looking downfield.
right.
And some guy takes a shot and broke his foot, or did the damage to his foot and his knee, and what have you, and his PCL. It's been because he's been trying to throw the ball. When he's running the football, he's so damn fast. A lot of times people can't get a good shot on him. He's so agile. He's so quick. He's so elusive. He's so amazing with his legs that most of the time when he runs, he either A, outruns everybody, or B, runs out of bounds or slides. So that hasn't been the problem. But I just think that if he had had an agent, I think the deal would have been done by now. I think I don't mind you betting on yourself, but when you're a guy that doesn't have, you're on your rookie deal, and he could be living so much larger. He could be set for life. He could have $100 million, next to his name with net worth if he had signed this contract. As of now, he's kind of in limbo, and he could be on 1-year tags. That's not a good look for him and his, long term.
And the other thing is, in a way, the Ravens screwed themselves too. Because if they had worked with him a few years ago, he would have been much, much cheaper. Because you wouldn't have had the Kyler Murray contract. You wouldn't have the Deshaun Watson contract to measure up to. You were talking at that time, what, the Mahomes, and it was the biggest contract out there, maybe? I don't know.
It's my understanding, though, the team wanted to get it done. I think they did. I just think Lamar has kind of been dragging this out because he knows that. He is a smart guy. He knows that it's going up,
right,
and that the price of the quarterbacks are going up. So I don't think he had a problem waiting. He was okay with it. But I agree with you. The team definitely would have benefited from getting this deal done a long time ago, because every day it goes up and up. And, the guys that aren't even that great are getting crazy money. So it's going to just go up even more now when there's 9 or 10 teams that need a quarterback, and there's about 2 available.
Yeah, there are some other names out there. Nothing really attractive right now. I think you got Lamar, you got Derek Carr, Geno Smith. If I was him, I would not leave Seattle.
No.
He's listed as it. Jimmy G, who right now, Jimmy G's worth is going down as we speak, it seems. I don't know. I hear a lot of everybody was hot and heavy on him, but now I'm not hearing so much. They're trying to make the deal for. They think Aaron Rodgers is going to be available. They think all these other things are going to happen, but I have a feeling that the teams that drag their feet are going to get screwed.
Yeah, I think Jimmy G. People might be putting up some smoke signs. This guy is a winner. I know he's had a couple injuries, but he's a winner, and there's teams that want this dude. He's got a pretty affordable salary. He only made like $7 million salary last year. He's going to get way more than that, but there's going to be teams interested. Think about the guys that are available on the free agent market. Not everybody's going to be able to draft somebody, Joe.
Yeah, let's go down the list. We got Lamar. We talked about him. Derek Carr, rated number 2, or thought about as number 2 right now. Derek Carr, I think he needs to go somewhere where he's got a team ready to win. He's not somebody you can build around. You've seen that with Vegas or Oakland, whatever you want to call, where he started his career. I think he needs to, especially he's 31. He needs to go somewhere that's ready to win right now. And where do you think he's going to? Tampa Bay, New Orleans?
Right now, I think some of the top contenders. I know he visited with the New York Jets, and I know that the Panthers are very interested in his services. So I kind of think those are probably the 2 front runners right now. Are the the Panthers and the Jets, but there's a lot more teams than that are interested. The Saints are also, they've already tried to trade for him, so I think they are interested in him. I think the Commanders are also interested in Derek Carr, and then also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they want some insurance for Kyle Trask, and they want somebody to compete with him that's a veteran. So I think Tampa Bay is interested in Derek Carr and Jimmy G because they want a veteran to come in there and fight, because they're a team that can win right now. If they have somebody that can get the ball into Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Russell Gage's and Leonard Fournette's hands, the Buccaneers team can still win.
You don't think the window's closed on them? You don't think? I mean, the defense broke down a little last year. With injuries have hurt them the last 2 years. You still think the window is open? I know the division isn't that good.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. Their division. I mean, they could go 9-8 and make the playoffs. So
Right.
I could see that team if they get somebody that can throw the football consistently back there. I like Kyle Trask. So
Right.
I think he might. I mean, do I think he'll be good his rookie season or his first season playing? I have no idea, but I do think he's got potential. But I think with the way their team is built in the division that they're in, they should get a veteran. They should get Derek Carr. They should get Jimmy G. They should get Baker, somebody, and have a veteran there so that they can, have the potential to win 8, 9, 10 games, because they can make the playoffs again with that type of win-loss record.
Well, let's just stay in that division, because all 4 teams need a quarterback, really.
Correct.
All 4 of them. I mean,
correct.
That's
my point. I mean, no one else is in a better situation quarterback-wise. They're all on equal footing. They don't have one.
Okay, but if you had to rate, if I asked you to rate the 4 teams, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Atlanta, in order, if you're Derek Carr, Jimmy G, one of these guys that's 31, 32 years old, this is their time. In order, which 1, 2, 3, 4? Where do you go?
I got probably Tampa 1, and I got New Orleans 2, and I would put New Orleans 1. Except I just don't believe in that coach. There was so many close games last year where the Saints, regardless of Andy Dalton being their quarterback, should have won. And because of in-game decisions or not decisions or no adjustments, they lost those games. And I put that a lot on their coach's shoulders. No idea why they're sticking with him. I mean, I thought they should have pulled the plug. This guy's been a head coach twice. It's been a disaster both times. I've got no faith in him. But they still have really good roster. So that's why I put them 2. I put Carolina 3, and I put Atlanta 4. Carolina showed that they were a better team as soon as they got that moron out as their coach and inserted Steve Wilkes. They were very competitive, even with Sam Darnold, pulling the strings. So I've got a little bit of faith in them, or at least more than I've got in Atlanta, because they've got a head coach that's never really done anything. He's a pretty good play caller, but that doesn't really mean anything if you can't manage the entire team. And then I don't like their playmakers. Wide receivers don't really blow me away. Their tight ends are average at best. Their offensive line sucks. Their running backs aren't even, some of them, really running backs. If you're talking about Cordarrelle Patterson, who I love, but he's not a bruiser. And their defense, the spots that they're good at are old, with Grady Jarrett and some of those guys. So I don't really like anything about Atlanta right now as far as their coaching, their roster, or their prospects for a quarterback, because I don't know who wants to go there.
What about Pitts? You think he should get out of Atlanta? You think he's done? Do you think the right quarterback can make him turn out to be what everybody thought he was going to be?
I don't know, man. I was never as high on him as other guys were. I thought he was an interesting prospect, but it was like, is he a wideout? Is he a tight end? Is he like a Travis Kelce, like amazing tight end guy? And I just never saw him as that guy. I mean, he was pretty talented in college, but I wasn't sure what he was going to be in the NFL. And so far, he hasn't been much. Now, we can attribute that to some injuries. We can attribute that to their offense sucking and their quarterbacks blowing. But I don't know. I don't know what to think of him. I think time will tell, and it'll also depend on who they bring in as a quarterback. Just such a weird situation that went down at the end of the year with Atlanta. Marcus Mariota just blowing some games and not looking good at the end. of games they should have won, and then him, getting benched, and then him disappearing from the team. It was just all very, very strange. And Pitts will not really know what he is until they have somebody that can throw him the football consistently.
All right, I'm going to save Daniel Jones for the end of this because we can group him and Saquon together. I'm going to skip down to Baker Mayfield. And, Baker, I don't know. I know he wants to be a starter, but does he want to go into a crappy situation when he's trying to resuscitate his career? Or is he better off to try and make some kind of deal with the Rams to back up Stafford and maybe become Geno Smith Jr.? You know what I mean? Spend a year on the bench, spend maybe 2 years on the bench, and suddenly he'll still be in his late 20s. And if McVay sticks around, you got a Super Bowl winning coach to maybe resuscitate that career. Would that be the better way for him to do it?
Definitely. I think he should stay right where he is. I mean, look at the difference between Baker in Carolina and Baker in Los Angeles. I mean, it was a completely 360-degree change. And I think that's where he should stay. To be honest, who knows what Matthew Stafford's going to do? Is he going to come back 100%? Is he going to come back and not look good and get benched? Is he going to come back and get hurt again? Is he going to come back and play well? I have no idea. So I think there's a lot of question marks there with Stafford and with that team in general. So I think Baker should stay right where he's at. If they'll give him a little bit of money, back some decent backup money, maybe a little bit of guaranteed jack to sign with them, I think he should stay right there, and he's going to get to play. Whether he's the starter at the beginning of the year or not, I have no idea, but he will definitely get on the field next year. No doubt about it if he stays in the Rams. They went through 4 quarterbacks this year.
All right, before we get to Daniel Jones, one of the two more names I want to bring up to you. One was just because it was hysterical. Somebody on local talk radio come here. It would just be so Jets if they're stuck taking Sam Darnold back as their answer.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. Their fan base would lose their shit. But I don't know who they're going to get. I mean, there's some people that are in the belief that they're not, really in the market for Derek Carr, that they're, Jimmy G doesn't want to go there. There's some talk that these guys don't really want to go to New York. I mean, for whatever reason, but they need a quarterback in the worst way. So they need to go hard at these free agents. If that doesn't work, they need to, sell the farm and get up there in the draft where they can get somebody. But you know what? I'm not really in a big, me, I love the draft, but I don't love any of these quarterbacks besides the first 2. I like CJ Stroud. I like Bryce Young. I think both those guys are at least going to be starters in this league. How great they are, who knows? But the dudes behind them scare the hell out of me. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, we'll get into it in depth later. But those 2 guys, people keep telling me are first-round draft picks. And I'm like, oh, my God, if you draft one of those guys in the first round and expect to play him right away, you are insane.
I took a good look at Will Levis this year because I thought, if Daniel Jones didn't work out. But, I mean, he doesn't look to be ready for anything.
His tape is garbage. People keep talking about his measurables and, some of his statistics and all that. And you know what? Neither one of those things mean anything to me because I've seen him play live. I've watched him play on television. I've checked his tape out. His tape is horrible. They're like, oh, he's got 65% completion rate. Yeah, about 19% of his passes are 10 yards or less. Well, he's throwing screens about 10% of the time.
The other thing you got to look at that is against what competition. If every big name team in college football, their first 3 games are usually garbage. So if he's putting up a lot of stats against those guys and nobody else, who cares?
Well, I mean, in the games where he played good teams in the SEC, he was horrible. That game that I went to, against Tennessee, who honestly wasn't even that good on defense. They were just a track team on offense. That's why they won so many games. Their defense got exposed big time towards the end of the season. But their defense against Will Levis looked like the 85 Bears. I mean, he was held to under 100 yards passing. He had 3 interceptions to a team that didn't really even have a decent high-end corner or defensive back. So I was not impressed, and there's nothing about him that I can point to and be like, oh, here's the evidence that he's going to be good.
And the other one out there, and this is the guy. This is the guy I'm afraid could be fool's gold for somebody, and that's Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, we've seen. I think he's a good backup. I don't know if he can do it for 17 games. I think he's a good backup, a very good quality backup. He could be the next Ryan Fitzpatrick, the guy who is the stopgap, the guy who comes in when you have an injury. He's a good backup. And I just see somebody, maybe a guy, if a team gets desperate, taking a stab at him because the success he had in replacing Dak the last 2 times.
Yeah, I mean, I think somebody may bring him in and let him compete, but I don't think anybody's going to give him starter money and count on him just to come in and be their day one starter without some competition. I mean, the only guys that I see that are like that are Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, and Lamar. I mean, those are the only guys on this list that I see as bona fide day one starters, without question. The rest of these dudes are all competition, players at best.
All right, let's start. Let's go down to the Giants, my team here. The 2 biggest offensive stars are right now sitting out there without contracts. The Giants are in danger of losing one, and I don't want to lose either of them. What is it going to take to keep? Everybody, who's they going to use a franchise tag on? Who are they going to pay? Or what's going to go on here?
I mean, ideally, they probably want to franchise the running back and sign the quarterback. I mean, that's what they want to do because they want the quarterback to be there long term. They want to structure. The quarterback takes up so much of the salary cap that you want him to be on a long term or longer term contract so you can spread the money out. You pay him a bunch of signing bonus, and then you string out you put a low salary number on it, or as low as you can, and that way it's cap friendly for the team. So that's what you want to do, and that's what the Giants want to do. And then they'll tag Saquon more than likely because he's in la la land, thinking that he's getting McCaffrey money and that he's worth $16 million. He's just not. So I don't see. I know he's the face of the franchise, and I think that's why the Giants want to bring him back. And he played well this year when he was healthy. But let's be honest, man, you cannot give a running back $16 million.
Christian McCaffrey proved it. I mean, his contract, Carolina had to sell him to get rid of him because they couldn't afford him anymore, really, because they could never put a team around him. And like you said, I mean, Barkley's been great. I mean, I got to say, his 3 years he's been healthy, he's been very, very good. The knee injury, he lost 1.5 years. And I mean, this is where, someone like me, someone like a normal person doesn't understand what's the difference, Saquon, between 12 million and 16 million. You give up 4 million, but I mean, that's why fans don't like this part of it, because we don't understand. I understand they can only make their big money for a certain period of time. But when you see guys that are going around the country, not making 100th of what these guys are making, and the guy goes, I need $4 million more. Why?
Hey, you know what? I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. I mean, look at Christian McCaffrey. Hell, he's been hurt ever since he signed his deal. Look at Alvin Kamara. I mean, ever since he signed his deal, he hasn't produced like Saquon has. So I feel like he thinks he deserves what these two guys have gotten. And I don't really blame him for thinking that. But do I think that the Giants are going to pay him that? Hell no. They're not going to pay him $16 million. And people are like, oh, they need to they need to compromise and meet in the middle. Well, how far do you want to go with this? Do you want to give him 14 and then have that type of cap hit at your running back position? I don't know. What happens if you give him 14 million and then he blows his knee out on the first play of the season. Not to mention that if you franchise him, he only gets 10. So I think you really want to tag him if you can, because you want to try and sign Daniel Jones if that's possible.
Well, let's look at some of the other run backs that are going to be out there. Josh Jacobs, right now is a free agent. Tony Pollard's coming off a broken leg, but it's a broken leg. It's not a knee. It's not an Achilles. It's a broken leg. That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders, he's been a quality back with the Eagles. Devin Singletary, you've said it many times. I mean, Devin Singletary is Devin Singletary. He's not a top line running back.
Right.
He needs to be part of a combination running back. David Montgomery has flashes with Chicago, nothing to speak of. Jamal Williams, if you get him down around the goal line, pretty special. Other than that,
oh, he had a huge season, man. I mean, that guy finished with what, almost 20 touchdowns. I know. That was a huge season for him. So I think he's made him some money. But the guy that stands out to me of that list that you just read is Miles Sanders. I think I underestimated him a little bit coming out of Penn State. I didn't know how great he would be in the pros and how productive he'd be. But when healthy, he's been really good. And I know part of it is the Eagles offense, obviously, but part of it's him. He's impressed me. So I think if you can't sign, Saquon Barkley, if you could bring in a Miles Sanders at a decent number, that would be okay with me. But they may have to draft somebody. To be honest, we'll get into the draft a lot. Obviously, moving forward, we're doing free agents today, but there's some decent running backs in this draft. So they could sign up. I think that you can sign a free agent. The thing with me is, he's such a big part of their offense.
Oh, I know
that losing him is just that's kind of where that's why they're struggling so much with this, is that they're very, very nervous about losing Saquon off that offense. It's just,
and it's not just that off his offense. It's what he, as you said, face of the franchise, quality guy, can handle the New York media. Even though he's taken some beatings, they really yell about where he was drafted. Other than that, everybody around here loves him.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's the hard thing is, like, for me as a Giant fan, you always hate to think, oh man, if he goes to Buffalo and wins a Super Bowl, or he goes down to Philly and wins a Super Bowl, or he goes somewhere else and wins a Super Bowl, it's gonna be it'll be a bitter taste in our mouths. But
oh my God, I never even thought about that. But man, if Philly could somehow figure out a way to sign that guy, can you imagine Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith? Oh my God, that team would be unstoppable. But think about the Giants, and I know this is the reason, in case anybody listening or watching doesn't understand, the reason we're talking about this so much is the Giants have no other running backs.
Right.
I mean, Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell, Jashawn Corbin. I mean, these are the guys that are going to be on the field if they don't sign another free agent and they don't bring back Saquon. So that's why this is the next couple of days are going to be crucial for the Giants, because the league year starts on March 7th, and they've got to figure something out quick with both these guys. And the Daniel Jones agent switch in the middle of this, I don't know if that helps.
Probably not. And then the other thing, not just when you talk about the running back situation with the Giants and the quarterback situation with the Giants, they still got to get some wide receivers in there, at least one quality wide receiver that can stretch the field, so they can do something downfield. A tight end would help. A tight end would help a lot. So I mean,
they need a lot of things. They need a couple of wideouts, to be honest with you. This year the wideout position was so horrible. I found myself not even really being able to evaluate Daniel Jones at times because of the wide receiver position. And another guy that we didn't really talk about who is available and could potentially help this Giants team is another free agent, Kareem Hunt.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why more people aren't talking about him. I would take Kareem Hunt like that and put him on my football team because that guy's a badass.
Another thing about Kareem Hunt that no one talks about is because Chubb has been the main running back, he's got healthy legs.
Yeah,
and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. It's almost like he's been a part-timer for 3 years.
Well, and he was out of football for a while due to the
suspension.
incident.
Yep.
Yeah, so he saved some wear and tear on his body with that. So that's why I like him so much. I mean, he's a running back that's played a lot. He knows the game. He knows what he's doing. He can learn, how to operate in any offense because he's such a veteran that's been on a couple of teams. I would go after this guy and sign him immediately if he understands what his value is.
And does he? The other thing is, I always get asked this, and I don't know Kareem personally. I don't know. I know he's been a pretty good citizen since he's been in Cleveland. Can he handle New York media and the New York fans?
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but he seems to have grown up a little bit. We haven't heard. I mean, the big news is where there is no news, right? Like we haven't heard much out of him since he's been in Cleveland, and let's be honest, other guys have found ways to get in trouble down in the flats, like your boy Baker, like your boy Johnny Cocaine Manziel. Other guys have found Josh Gordon. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have found ways to get cocaine there in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wait, I'm just looking down this list. Giants, go out and sign Boston Scott.
Yeah, no,
come on.
Yeah,
it's to stop him.
Well, hell, if you signed him, he'd turn around and start running the other way and scoring touchdowns against the Giants again.
Safety, that's only a safety.
Yeah, he's still scoring touchdowns against the Giants, man. But Philly, New York is by far, in my opinion, the most interesting team, especially to do with free agency. But number two, and a close number two, is the Philadelphia Eagles because they have so many guys right now that are free agents. And so many of them are so crucial to this team. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I am very, very interested to see who they bring back. I mean, the names that are free agents off this team. I mean, Fletcher, they've got guys that are veterans that have been there for a long time. They have guys that are relatively young, like Boston Scott. They have, we just mentioned him, Miles Sanders. There's so many guys. Hargrave, who is, in my opinion, one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Brandon Graham, who you're like, oh, he's old. Why would they want him? Well, he had a tremendous season this year. And
Quinn, who they traded for.
Who's that?
Quinn, who they traded for from Chicago.
Yeah, Robert Quinn. Yeah, Robert Quinn. I mean, he didn't even really get much of a chance to play for them. But, he is another guy that they're looking at. Fletcher Cox has been there so long. Jason Kelsey, their center, who makes all the calls and runs that team. Bradbury, who had a good season for them. TJ Edwards is their middle linebacker who, controls that defense and was a tackle machine. We already mentioned Boston Scott, Zach Pascal, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who they traded for last year. Do you want to trade for a guy, give up capital, and then get rid of him? Marcus Epps is their starting safety. Gardner Minshew is their backup quarterback. I mean, we could go on and on. Yeah. There's so many guys. Kazir White, he played a lot as safety and outside linebacker. Sumalu, the guard, it was a pretty important player for him. So there's so many dudes right now that are free agents for the Giants, or for the Eagles. I think they have 20 guys that are not under contract.
I mean, the other names that jump at you, Raheem Mostert, but I mean, he's another guy he's a part of a tandem. Mark Ingram's about done. Jerick McKinnon with Kansas City, interesting.
You're talking about running backs?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like McKinnon. I think he's actually very underrated, in my opinion, just because they like to use a system there in Kansas City where they just kind of rotate guys around. Right. And I think he's a dude that if he was on the field more, he would be even more productive. I just have always liked him and loved his game, and I think he's a very explosive player. I think he just needs more touches. Another dude is Deontay. Yeah, no, he can block. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run it. There's not much that Jerick McKinnon can't do, and that's also another guy is Deontay Foreman. This dude really just blew it up this year. playing for Carolina. I mean, he almost had 1,000 yards. He wasn't even really the starter until halfway through the year, and I was very impressed with Deontay Foreman. Mostert, to me, is a guy that can't stay healthy anymore.
Yeah.
He's still productive when he can be on the field, but just ever since that 1 year where remember that one game, I believe it was against the Packers where he ran for like 300 yards. He just hasn't been healthy since. So I just don't have a ton of faith in him anymore.
And then, of course, you got Damian Harris of New England. But, I mean, because of the system, because of some injuries, never seen what he can do in over 17 games.
I like him.
Yeah, but Kenyon Drake, he's on the back end of whatever he's got left.
Yeah.
Rex Burkhead's on this list. I don't know.
He's always on this list. He's always on this list because no one ever signs his ass till they have to. But yeah, I mean, Justice Hill, the guy out of Baltimore, when he's healthy, he's been able to play a little bit. What's the kid's name? James Robinson, that played for the Jaguars and went to the Jets. I mean, there's some guys on here that you can go after, but I definitely think Saquon, Kareem Hunt, Josh Jacobs, those are the guys that really stand out, except for maybe Miles Sanders.
Right. All right, let's skip down to the tight end. Surprising, I see this guy at the top of the list. He gets injured a little bit, but Dalton Schultz is a money pass catcher. Evan Ingram is Evan Ingram his free agent? Because that's what I got on my list, and I can't believe he's a free agent.
Yeah, he is. I think he must have just signed like a 1-year deal with Jacksonville last year, I believe is what happened. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that he signed a 1-year deal with Jacksonville last year, and really at the end of the season, played it really well. Yeah, he signed a 1-year, $9 million deal with Jacksonville last season, so that's why he's a free agent again.
Well, he'll get some play. And Mike Gesicki, it seems that they don't have a role for him anymore in Miami. This year, especially with the wideouts they got, he was really a third or fourth option, really. And I love him. I've always loved him as a pass-catching tight end. I think someone's going to pick him up and give him a chance. I wouldn't mind seeing him in New York because I think he could handle it.
Yeah, this year was very disappointing for him. He played in 16 games, but he only had 28 catches.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if it was the offense. I don't know if they just wanted to get the ball in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill's hands so much that he was kind of an afterthought. I don't really know. I think part of it had to do with the musical chairs at quarterback. One day they've got Tua in there and they're rolling. Then they've got Teddy Bridgewater, and then they've got Skylar Thompson, the kid from Kansas State, as their third quarterback. I mean, they were down to the third quarterback a lot of the season, so I think that was part of it. I think he's definitely one of the top 5 tight end free agents that's out there, but this is a position that guys already have a lot of these teams already have a guy ready to go, but we'll see what his value is. I think last year his contract, I think, was around over $10 million. And I'm just not sure if somebody wants to pay that for a dude who caught 20 balls.
Right. Who I might, I don't know if they got with their money situation in New England I guess it's not the Josh McDaniel offense anymore, but he's kind of a low level Gronk, in a way, catching passes, not the blocker.
But they already signed, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. So they've got 2 tight ends that they're paying boatloads of money to both of them. I don't know if they can handle another guy at tight end.
You don't want 3 tight ends.
No, not at the numbers they're paying, because they really reached paying both those guys. But Robert Tonyan Jr., the guy that comes out of Green Bay, last year was kind of a down year for him. He still had 53 receptions.
Right.
This is a dude who's no one really talks about, but to me is a pretty good tight end who can block and catch.
How about Austin Hooper? I mean, he hasn't really. A couple of years ago, they thought when he was going to show up in Cleveland, he'd be the guy that would work the inside with Baker Mayfield. Didn't really work out in Cleveland. Went down to Tennessee, but of course Tennessee is Tennessee.
Yeah, they have no quarterback. They had Malik Willis out there, which was like a quarterback with no arms.
Overall, what do you think about Austin Hooper as a tight end?
It's hard to tell. I don't really want to dog him because of he had some good years in Atlanta and was very impressive. And then it didn't work out in Cleveland, but there was a lot of things going on there. I don't want to blame it all on him. And then Tennessee last year, the fact that he had 41 catches really impresses me because hell, they couldn't get the ball past 10 yards. Once Malik Willis took over, and Ryan Tannehill, I'm not real impressed with to begin with. So I'm actually kind of impressed that he had 41 catches. He played in all 17 games. I think this guy is an option for some of the teams out there that need a tight end because this list to me isn't that impressive. I mean, Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, Evan Ingram, Austin Hooper, Robert Tonyan, Hayden Hurst. Those are really the only number one tight ends that could even come from this list. And I think Dalton Schultz is probably the best in my opinion.
And then we go to wide receiver, which is terrible. I mean, Odell Beckham hasn't played in over a year. No. I don't know. Does he really want to play? What's he waiting for? They said he would be recruited in Buffalo. They said, this, they say that. I don't see him being in a hurry to sign anywhere.
Yeah, I don't see anybody being in a big hurry to sign him. I mean, no one signed him last year. Everybody was like, oh, he's waiting for the playoffs. He wants to win another Super Bowl, and there's all the rumors. But he never played, and no one ever signed him. So who knows, with the multiple knee surgeries, who knows if he ever even comes back. But, yeah, you're right. The free agent class for wide receivers is just god-awful.
DJ Chalk, who was okay. Your boy Alan Lazard.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Alan Lazard. This was his best season ever. He had 60 catches for 788 and 6 touchdowns, and this was his best season ever. And that was really because they had to play him because other guys were hurt and the kids didn't know what the damn play was. So, he'll probably make some money somewhere, but he should give half of it to Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, at the list I'm looking at is Sterling Shepard is still in the top 10 or listed as top 10 free agent. The guy hasn't had a complete season in his career. I mean, I like the guy. I root for him. I'm a Giant fan. He's been a good guy and a good teammate and everything you want a Giant receiver to, but he can't stay healthy.
I wouldn't sign that guy with a 10-foot pole, man. He had 13 catches last year. I mean, I need production out of these wideouts. I don't want somebody who can't be on the field. I don't want a guy who can last 3 games. He's had multiple knee surgeries. I wouldn't touch him.
Listen, hasn't he had an Achilles too?
I think so.
Yeah. So I mean, Achilles are the worst. So I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, he's done, man. You got Nelson Aguilar out there who can't catch a cold sometimes. Robert Woods. Randall Cobb, Marvin Jones, Julio Jones. I thought he retired, but I got him confused with AJ Green. I don't know. I think if you're really looking at this free agent class of wide receivers, you should just draft somebody.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's do a little offensive line here. You got Orlando Brown Jr. out there from Kansas City. I like Mike McGlinchey from San Francisco.
Oh, I do too. I think that the big thing with Orlando Brown is I think they're probably going to franchise tag him. I really don't think especially after watching that Super Bowl, I don't think you can let this guy get out of town. I don't think the Chiefs want him to go anywhere. I don't know if they have the cap room really to sign him to a long-term deal, but I definitely think they'll probably tag him and give him that money.
McGlinchey, you think he's moving on, or you think he'll go back to San Francisco?
I'm trying to think. He's 28 years old. At the right number, I think that the 49ers will bring him back. Their running game is so important, and this is a guy that can definitely, knock some people down on the ground in the run game. So I think that if it makes sense financially, I think he'll probably end up back in San Francisco.
All right, let's take a look. Guards. Anybody in the guards you like? You like Dalton Reisner? You like Ben Powers? Any of these guys? Any of these guys? Nick Gates?
You know, I'm not in love with any of these dudes, to be honest with you. It's a rough guard market. I mean, it looks a lot to me like the wide receivers. I would probably draft somebody if I had to. I mean, a lot of these guys are a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
The ones that are available, Trey Turner. It seems like he's on a different team every single year. Some of these guys are journeymen. But Reisner, I probably like a little bit better than some of the other ones, but he's been a little bit inconsistent. The Roger Saffold keeps finding himself on a team. He's almost 35 years old. Justin Pugh at Arizona, he's probably going to get a look, but he made $9 million last year, and I don't see him getting anywhere close to that on the open market. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these guards, but I'm not in love with any of them.
And the center position, you already talked about Jason Kelsey is the most famous of them. The guy who sticks out with me right now, Mitch Morse. How about him up in Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, that's a dude that I think is a pretty good center. I mean, he's a guy that can call the offense, get everybody in the right spot, and I probably like him probably the best. But Quisenberry out of Houston is a guy that can play a couple different positions. He can play center. He can also move around. Rodney Hudson's had a good career, but he's 34 years old.
Yeah.
He's probably donezo. Obviously, I think Jason Kelsey's probably going to either re-sign in Philadelphia or he's going to retire.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to stay with the Eagles, especially, been to 2 Super Bowls with him. He's kind of the face of the franchise at that position. So, I don't see him moving on. All right, let's move over to defense a little bit. Edge rushers coming out. Ngakwe at the Colts. Robert Quinn we talked about already. Arden Key, Brandon Graham of the Eagles. How about Shaq Lawson with Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, this guy had so much promise coming out, and he's kind of been a disappointment, honestly, throughout his career. I mean, it just, for whatever reason, it just hasn't really worked. I don't know if I would roll the dice on him if I really needed an edge rusher. The question is, are any of these guys worth what you're going to have to pay them?
Right.
That is what I don't know. And some of these dudes on this list, that are listed as ends, they're more of a 3-4 type end than a rush end. It's like, what do you need? Do you need a guy that can help you against the run, or do you need a dude that can get you 10 sacks? And to be honest, I think some of these guys can help you in the run game, but I don't see many that can get you 10 sacks. One name that really jumps off to me is Justin Houston. This is a dude that a lot of people thought was done. They're like, man, he's 30 plus years old. He doesn't have much left in the tank. And what does he do but goes out and has one of his best seasons ever, and has over nine and a half sacks. Caused a fumble. He got an interception. This guy really, really had a big season, but he's 34 years old. So do you really want to, pay him a ton of money? It's probably going to be more of like a 1-year deal with him. But I still think he proved it to me that he's got some left, and I think he's going to get another shot.
Jadeveon Clowney, he seems to be on this list every year too.
Yeah.
Has the time passed him by?
You know what, man? I was one of the biggest Jadeveon Clowney fans of anyone. I love that guy so much. He was one of the greatest high school football players of all time, one of the best college football players of all time. I mean, South Carolina never wins 11 games in their 100-something year history. He goes there, they win 11 games 3 years in a row. That's just unheard of. But he's kind of been a disappointment in the NFL. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love the guy so much, but it just hasn't, for whatever reason, ever clicked. And, he's been in some good situations. He went to Houston. He had Mario Williams on the other side. When he was in Cleveland, he had the big dog over on the other side, Myles Garrett. I mean, if you can't get 10 sacks opposite Myles Garrett,
Yeah.
that's not a good thing, man. I mean, I love him so much, but I've never seen the production that he's capable of.
He won your heart when he took that Michigan running back's head off.
Yeah, well, I loved him before that, but when he did that, I loved him even more because, man, I would have traded places with him because that was a great shot, and I'll never forget that. But I'm just, he was dominant at South Carolina.
He was.
You just could not block him, and people are like, oh, his numbers. He had 13 sacks the one year, and then it went down. You know what? Well, hell yeah, everyone's whole goal in their SEC offensive game plan was to try and block this guy
and run away from him
because it was just hopeless. But man, I don't know. Because he is who he is, somebody will give him one more chance. But I kind of think this is it for him.
All right, we go to the defensive tackles. We talked about Hargrave and Fletcher Cox with Eagles, Dalvin Tomlinson with the Vikings, and Darren Payne with the Commanders.
Yeah, Payne is, I think, a guy that is definitely going to make some money. This guy can do it all, and had 64 tackles this year. He played in all 17 games, 852 snaps. He had 3 sacks from the position. He had 12 sacks this year. Excuse me. He had 12 sacks and 20 QB hits. So this guy's probably the primo defensive tackle in this class. And I know that Washington wants to bring this dude back, but I don't know if I see it happening because there's going to be a big time market for a guy like this. He's only 25 years old.
Right.
So and had 11 and a half sacks last year. So I think he's probably number one in my opinion. I mean, dude was drafted 13th overall out of Alabama. He's got Joel Siegel as his agent. That guy's going to get him some cash.
All right, let's skip over to the linebackers here. Bobby Wagner, I think, should retire. I think it's done for him.
I mean, he had an all pro year last year. I mean, he was not the problem in LA, but
he's still in his. What is he? 35 now.
He's at least 34 years old. There's no doubt about that. But he will get signed. I think he'll get at least one more year. He was due a ton of money. He signed that 5-year, $50 million deal, and he's only going to see about $9.5 million of it. Wow. So I think he'll come back just because he wants to make some more money and because he had a huge year last year, even though the team sucked. It wasn't certainly his fault. He was all over the place.
All right, I'm going to run 3 names by you for this. Leighton Vander Esch from the Cowboys.
Yeah, this is a dude who, when healthy, is a good football player.
Right.
That's the big thing with him is when healthy. I mean, he managed to get out there for 14 games this year. He had 90 tackles. He was a difference maker, especially in the run game. It's just, in coverage, I don't love him. And the injury history is a problem for me, especially with the neck.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, the whole thing is that, he doesn't have to be – in most defenses, he doesn't have to be out there. He could be the run stopper on the goal line and early down. So
that's what I'm saying. If that's what you're looking for, he's a dude that can definitely do that. How
about Levante David?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's been very, very productive throughout his career. He's 33 years old, but last year he played in 17 games, over 1,000 snaps. I think he was one of the guys that played the most snaps out of anybody, especially at the linebacker position. He had 3 sacks. He had 124 tackles. I think Levante David, although he may not be, he's definitely not going to be back at the Bucs. He's going to get paid. And I think even though he's 33 years old, he's going to play football next year for sure.
What about Devin Bush with the Steelers?
Wow. I don't know what the hell happened to this guy. He was so good as a rookie, and everybody was ready to anoint him like one of the next best linebackers in the league. And since then, it's kind of gone backwards. So I believe that the Steelers will move on from him. But I think that somebody else will give him a chance. He's only 24 years old.
Right.
He played in 16 games last year, so he managed to stay healthy. And honestly, he still had 81 tackles. So, although he's not, he kind of regressed, he still is a player that can get it done if you need him.
And one last one, just because he's interesting and for local stuff, Quincy Williams from the Jets. Is he anybody that anybody's going to spend any money on?
He's a linebacker. So, I mean, he's not going to be able to retire on his salary next year. But this is a dude who also is pretty productive. I mean, he's only 26. He played in 14 games last year. He had 96 tackles. He's a dude that is definitely going to get signed, and I think he'll probably get a 1 or 2 year deal just based on his production.
All right, let's go over the cornerback situation here. James Bradbury back being a free agent again.
It seems like some of these guys just live on the free agent list, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, James Bradbury, he has some game to him. Somebody, I think, will give him a chance. I mean, I hate to see the Giants have to let him go.
Yeah.
But his asking price will probably be a little bit beyond their realm. But, I mean, I think somebody will pick up Bradbury that needs a cornerback.
I do too. I think he's still a starter in this league, and that's one of the big things. I mean, think about the guys that are actually available here in the cornerback market. I mean, which one of these guys is still a starter in this league? I mean, Marcus Peters, his only problem has been staying healthy. That's been an issue for him, but he's still probably a starting cornerback. Bradbury, I think, can start.
Patrick Peterson's had his better days.
Yeah, I mean, he played really well last year, honestly. I mean, Patrick Peterson had 5 interceptions last year. For a guy at his age, that's pretty amazing. But I just don't know if somebody else wants to sign a 33-year-old corner unless he, can move to safety.
Jonathan Jones was a star early in the season for the Patriots, but later on, I don't know if people stopped throwing against him or what, but he didn't really measure up over the whole year. Here's one that's gonna Eli Apple. I mean, here's a guy who you got to be able to take his act. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's got that cocky attitude. He says things. You know what he's going to be a pain in the ass that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get him off of Twitter, maybe it would be good. But I don't know if it's worth it with him. He's better than some people give him credit for. He's managed to stick around in this league a long time. But yeah, you got to put up with a lot if you're dealing with Apple. But he still was on the field last year for 15 of the 17 games. He played 830 snaps, and as long as he's in the right scheme, he can get it done.
Yeah. But does every team have the coordinator, the defensive coordinator that the Bengals do, that knows how to use them?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he looked a lot different playing for the Bengals than he did playing for the Saints.
Or the Giants.
Yeah, I think I would stay put if I were him.
And let's go to the safeties quickly. We got Jordan Poyer for the Bills. Cincinnati might lose 2 safeties in Bell and Bates. And then you got Gardner Johnson out of Philadelphia and Jimmy Ward out of San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one to me on that list is definitely Jesse Bates out of Cincinnati. Bengals. They had to get him to come back this year because they just didn't have an answer for him. And are they going to be able to do it again? I don't know. They're going to have to sign that quarterback. They've got all these wide receivers that they've got to sign with T. Higgins and, also Jamar Chase. He's going to be up due for a contract here in the next year or two. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can bring him back one more year. But he's definitely the guy that makes that defense roll.
Yeah, so that'd be a big loss for them. One guy I can't believe he's still here. Devin McCourty. Didn't he retire 17 years? No, I'm just kidding. Devin McCourty's been around forever. There's a guy who should just become one of the next coaches on the staff.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe he's still in the league. I think his brother retired a couple of years ago, didn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah. Julian Love, who had a pretty good season for the Giants. I
Yeah.
mean, Julian Love had a very good season actually, as it goes. And of course, the Jabril Peppers, the eternal optimist of Jabril Peppers. But you know, the one thing going back to the cornerback position when we were talking about Jack Johnson, I wanted to bring up, and I forgot about it when we were talking about it. I would stay away from him for one reason. Usually, when Belichick gives up on a cornerback, you should give up on the cornerback
Yeah.
because wherever they go, they fail.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of gets the most out of them and makes them look good and props them up in his defense, and then they leave, and it's a nightmare. I mean, Stephon Gilmore, was the player of the year over there, and he definitely has never looked the same since he left. And then J.C. Jackson, everybody said that Belichick was a moron for letting him go, and then he can't even get on the field for the Chargers. So he definitely knows how to do it, and he can make these guys that are undrafted free agents turn into lockdown corners.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else out there we need to talk as we start the free agency where we think what teams what do you think is going to happen? What do you want to get to here?
I think we pretty much covered it all. I mean, obviously, the everything in the NFL starts and ends with the quarterback, so that's kind of going to be the biggest ticket item that everybody's going to have to talk about. The deal is, who all is really out there. I mean, is Aaron Rodgers really going to leave the Green Bay? I mean, he says he is every year, and he never does. I think he just likes people talking about him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he's actually going to move, there's some teams that will definitely want him, but I don't know whether or not that's real, whether or not he's actually going to go somewhere. I mean, the Packers would have to trade him. And, I don't know if they're ready to do that or not. Maybe they just want to move on. I have no idea. But by, watching them give him a big contract last year, I just don't think he's going anywhere.
I think someone should have propped up a chair against whatever the dark room he's in, just leave him there.
I wish.
I mean, geez, that's the whole thing about him is he's one of those guys who, talent-wise, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. He's one of the best quarterbacks talent-wise has ever been. But the price you pay, like we're talking about Eli Apple, if you can deal with the crap, he's going to win you some games. You're going to be a playoff. You're going to be a team that can make the playoffs every year just because. I don't even think he loves the game. I said this before. I don't think he loves the game. I think he just happens to be good at this. And he pays him so much money. Why would he walk away from it?
Yeah, he definitely loves himself.
Oh,
so
God.
That much I know.
I know. Anybody who gives up Olivia Munn, I feel sorry for him. What an idiot. Yeah. That's okay. That's just my opinion on Olivia Munn. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about basketball because we're getting ready for March Madness. Houston's number one. I saw some pre March Madness polls saying Houston's going to be the top team going in. Surprising loss by Virginia at Boston College this week. I don't know if we have a favorite team right now in the NCAA. Is Houston that team? Are they that good, or is it really going to be a combination of how it always is how it works out, where you are, what section of the country you end up in? But are there teams you think of that are really favorites? You've been watching Tennessee, and everybody believes in Tennessee. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Houston is 26-2. So, this is a team that, I would say, they're, don't play as good a competition or whatever, but we've seen them in the tournament the last few years.
Right.
And with Calvin Sampson as their coach, this guy knows how to coach in the tournament, and these guys know how to play in the tournament. So I actually am a believer of them. It's all going to come down to matchups, but I like Houston. I obviously like Alabama. Virginia, to me, I'm not as big on because, offensively, they're not as dynamic as some of these other teams.
That's why I love Tony Bennett. Because I'm a defensive guy. I love guys that can take these high-flying teams and make them play down.
Yeah, no, he can do it, but sometimes it bites you if you can't get some of your points of your own.
Yeah.
Some of the other teams that have intrigued me though are Purdue, that's 24-4. They've got some decent guards and the big guy down low. They're a good team and definitely to be reckoned with. You mentioned Tennessee. I've seen every single game in person up close. Their biggest issue is obviously losing 2 starters. They've lost 5 out of their last 7 games because they're missing their big-time 5-star recruit freshman, Julian Phillips, and also their senior leader, James. And if they don't get those 2 guys back, they're not going anywhere.
And then you look in the Big East. I don't know who to believe in. I mean, Xavier, UConn. Man, what? How much did Villanova lose when Jay Wright decided to retire?
I'm still baffled by that. I don't think people really talk about it as much. It's a guy who is still a young man and
Loved.
and beloved by his school at the height of his craft, and he retires and goes to TV. I'm still shocked by it.
Well, it's kind of like how I felt when Billy Donovan left Florida to go to Oklahoma City, but at least I understood he was going to Oklahoma City to coach in the pros.
Yeah,
it's just, these are the kind of guys that, when you're a Billy Donovan at Florida, and when you're even though Raleigh Massimino was a beloved coach and won a national championship at Villanova, he never did and turned Villanova into the kind of power that Jay Wright did. And I mean, it would be like Coach K leaving, halfway through his career. It just struck you as why.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was very confused by it, and I'm still kind of shocked by it. But there's some teams, you mentioned Coach K. There's some teams that aren't even ranked that I think could win a couple games in the tournament. That's Duke for one. They've got a really good group of young players that they can put it together. They can beat some teams. Kentucky always, has the talent level up to the roof. And they've got Oscar Speedway, the NCAA Player of the Year last year, who's starting to play really good with these other guys that he's surrounded himself with. So, Arkansas is another team that can play well on any given night. So that's 3 or 4 teams that aren't even ranked that could potentially win some ball games. And there's no team hotter than Texas A&M right now, who's ranked 25th, but they've won like 10 out of their last 12.
And of course, Slick Rick in New Rochelle, New York, with Iona, all he has to do is get past his own conference tournament, which he didn't do last year, and get into the big dance and see what happens.
Man, I'm so excited. I love March Madness, and it's about to happen. I think most teams have about 2-3 games left, and then it's conference tournament time.
My only problem with college basketball is it starts in the middle of football. And then you really have only a good month where you can really concentrate on the games every night and watch more than 1 or 2 games, a week, and throughout, because you're looking so much at football and stuff. I just wish there was more time. I wish we could play out longer.
Hey, you got plenty of time, brother. Just watch the conference tournaments, see who looks good in those, get some favorites that you like, and then put your money on them for the big dance.
All right. Are you doing man coverage this week, or?
We're not sure yet. We're trying to put together a couple shows to get to break down the Senior Bowl and also the Combine. But I think we're going to try and do that on Sunday around 1:00. So we'll be looking out for that.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. We will be back next week. Let you get home to your family. Glad to see that you didn't test to the COVID, that it was just a cold. That's good. We didn't want to see you sick. And we will be back next week. Everybody, tune in. Nate, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you over the weekend.
Sounds good, buddy.